No, of course not. But
Okay.
the deduction.
But I mean,
is,
and you've branched off from talking about a scientific law, a physical law, off to an aspect of evolutionary theory. So, I mean, where are you going with this? Because you're kind of all over the map here.
yeah, it seems like I'm sort of jumping around. But essentially, what I'm saying is, you can inductively say that all things are pretty much conceptual. And if you can say that, or at least we have a good reason to believe that all things are conceptual, because everything we come across is conceptual.
No. The fact that you conceive something does not mean that its ontological nature is conceptual. That is a fallacy. What is the good reason that you have for assuming that everything is conceptual simply because we can conceive it?
What do you propose it is instead, besides conceptual? Material?
Matter?
Yeah.
If it's material, then explain to me what this materialness means. What is it? What's the property of matter?
What is the property of matter?
Yeah, what is it? What does it mean? What do you mean when you say matter?
Why does it need to mean something?
Yeah.
Well, you're saying that I need to explain, or theists would ever need to explain. Oh, define God before you say that you think he exists.
Right.
Well, you have to also define matter before you say it exists.
Matter has a definition.
Yeah, it's...
Just because we don't know everything about it doesn't mean that it's not defined. But the big thing is that this is what we directly experience. It becomes the default position, and if you're asserting, in fact, that this cup doesn't exist, that it is, in fact, only a concept, that's something you need to demonstrate, not just assert. And so you said a minute ago that we have good reason to think that everything is conceptual, and I'm saying, what's that good reason?
The good reason is everything we come across is observed through sensory perceptions. There's no object which we've observed.
No. You just said observed. That verb means that we did observe an object.
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
It's tautology.
What good reason do we have to think that everything is conceptual?
Because there's no other nature to objects that we can talk about. Like you're saying that atoms exist externally to the mind, and they're this physical stuff, and they have an essence or whatever, and they're made out of matter. I want you to explain what the nature of that is, the substance of that is.
You just did.
Yeah.
Well, that doesn't make any sense. Saying atoms are this thing that exist outside of our minds doesn't really explain anything about atoms.
Have you looked at a periodic table lately?
We can weigh them.
Yeah. It describes a lot of properties of a lot of different kinds of atoms.
That's great, but it doesn't show how those properties are physical and external to the world, to the mental world, as opposed to just mental.
You're correct. We cannot demonstrate that solipsism isn't true. I said that at the beginning. You are now saying that we have good reason to think that it is true, and your argument is that we can't disprove it, therefore it is true. That is an argument. No, sir. It's an argument from ignorance. I settled this at the beginning when I said that we could not disprove it, that we must assume by necessity, a matter of practicality, that the reality that we experience is real, and that if it's not, that needs to be demonstrated. And your argument is that because we cannot demonstrate that it's actually real and not conceptual, that this gives us good reason to think that it's conceptual. And that's a fallacy that called an argument from ignorance.
But by Occam's razor, we would have to assume it's the best possible solution. Because if you're saying
Dave, you're an idiot.
Okay.
Dave, you're an idiot, and I'll tell you why. Because I've explained the fallacy, and instead of coming back with an explanation that clarifies why it's not a fallacy, which would involve a restructuring of the argument, instead you spit out Occam's razor. And by using Occam's razor, you're committing the same fallacy again, because you're going to misuse Occam's razor to make an argument from ignorance. Occam's razor, meaning that we shouldn't multiply entities beyond necessity.
All right, so let me address.
And I already told you what the necessity was.
Okay, so you're saying I'm making an argument from ignorance.
Yes.
I understand that.
So don't do it again.
But, okay, would I be making an argument from ignorance if I was to say, hey, all the people we've run across have cells, so we should infer that all people have cells.
No.
Why not?
Because that's inductive reasoning.
But that's exactly the same thing as saying all the things we've come across are sensory, so we should infer that all things are sensory.
No, because, oh boy, as I said about 5 or 10 minutes ago, just because we can conceive of things does not mean they are by nature conceptual.
Okay, but what are they? Are you a skeptic? Are you saying that nothing exists at all and it doesn't really have a nature? Or
No, that's what you're saying.
But you're saying that everything is physical. It has this physical nature.
Yes,
that's
and the fact
their assertion, as much as it is for me to say that
it's not Dave, I'm going to hang up. I swear to God. It's not a bald assertion. As I explained at the beginning, it's a practical necessity. I experience this reality, and I must deal with this reality within the scope of this reality. I don't know whether or not it's the ultimate reality, and until somebody demonstrates that there is a reality beyond this, I have no good reason to think there is. That is the application of Occam's razor that applies.
Okay, so reality is reality, basically.
Boy.
Wow. You get it.
Okay, I was just confused as to why you're saying reality is material instead of reality. I just don't know.
Really?
I don't know. But thanks for answering that sort of. You sort of helped me understand what your positions are better.
Well, I'll remember next time to just start with reality is reality. Because a tautology really clarifies things, Dave. We have a little over a minute left, and I don't want to screw anybody over by taking their call with less than a minute left, so I'm going to do some reminders. As a reminder, we'll be going to dinner after the show at Threadgill's, 301 West Riverside Drive. Any atheist or atheist-friendly person is welcome to join us. It's almost 6. We'll be down there roughly around 6:30 or so. As a reminder, Nonprofits is kind of on a hiatus while we look for a new day that works for all of us. The show is not dead. We'll post notes and we'll get updates on the show just as soon as we can get back to it. I promise. We'll even try and do some stuff to make up for it. May 16th. Have your butt at the Texas Capitol. Join us down there to put the Texas State Board of Education on notice before they vote on stuff on May 21st. Also, May 6th is the National Day of Prayer, which means it's also the National Day of Reason. And while we didn't have anything in particular planned and weren't going to do anything after the court ruling that said it was unconstitutional to have a National Day of Prayer, odds are pretty good. Some of us will have our butts down at the Capitol then as well. Jen and I will be back next week at 7:30 instead of 4:30. Thanks a lot to everybody. Thanks, Jen, for letting me ramble.
Thank you.
See ya.
Bye.